Have you ever looked at yourself, really looked, and wondered how much of what you call your personality you actually chose? Maybe you've always described yourself as fiercely independent. Maybe people call you the responsible one, the perfectionist, the peacemaker, the one who never asks for help. You've probably heard these described as strengths, and in many ways, they are. But most likely, they didn't begin as personality traits. They began as survival strategies. Because sometimes, the child who learned to survive becomes the adult who quietly believes, this is just who I am. And that changes everything. The human brain is extraordinary. It doesn't simply remember childhood, it adapts to it. Every experience teaches your nervous system something about the world. Is it safe? Can people be trusted? Will someone come when I need them? Or am I on my own? Children don't choose the environment they grow up in, but their brains adapt to it, quietly, constantly, and without asking permission. Not because something went wrong, because something went right. A child's brain has one priority above everything else: survive first, understand later. And sometimes the skills that kept you safe as a child quietly follow you into adulthood, long after the danger is gone. Maybe you've always been proud of how independent you are. You solve your own problems, you rarely ask for help. People admire how capable you seem. But independence isn't always born from confidence. Sometimes it's born from disappointment. A child who repeatedly learns that comfort isn't available eventually stops reaching for it. Not because they don't need it, because hoping hurts more than doing it alone. Years later, that child becomes an adult who says, I just don't like depending on people. Maybe that's true. Or maybe your nervous system simply learned that depending on people wasn't safe. There's a difference. Perhaps you're the person who notices everything, the smallest shift in someone's voice, a look that lasted a second too long, a silence that felt wrong before anyone else noticed. People might call you sensitive, but neuroscience offers a different explanation. When children grow up around unpredictability, the brain becomes remarkably skilled at detecting danger early. The threat system stays alert, because once, that alertness mattered. Today, that same skill might leave you exhausted after conversations, replaying things that are already over, bracing for something that may never come, reading every room before you've even sat down in it. And the hardest part is that from the outside, it looks like sensitivity. But from the inside, it feels like never being able to fully switch off. Like some part of you is always standing guard, even when there is nothing left to guard against. You weren't born to live on high alert. Your brain simply had to become very, very good at keeping you safe. Or maybe you've spent your life trying to make everyone around you comfortable. You avoid conflict. You apologize when nothing was your fault. You feel responsible for other people's emotions. If someone near you is upset, your first instinct is to wonder what you did wrong. As children, some of us discovered that peace depended on keeping other people calm. So we became experts at reading moods, experts at fixing, experts at making ourselves smaller. That strategy may have protected relationships back then, but as adults, it often means abandoning yourself before anyone else gets the chance. It means saying yes when every part of you means no. Staying in rooms that drain you because leaving feels selfish. Carrying the emotional weight of people who were never asked to carry yours. Helping people is beautiful. Believing your worth depends on keeping everyone happy is exhausting. Then there's perfectionism. From the outside, it looks like ambition, discipline, success. But underneath perfectionism is often a much quieter question. Will I finally be enough if I get this right? Some children grow up believing that love has to be earned through good grades, good behavior, good performance. The brain learns an invisible equation. Mistakes equal rejection. Perfection equals safety. And so the work never feels finished. The achievement never feels like quite enough. Because somewhere underneath the striving is a child who learned that being good enough was a condition, not a given. The tragedy is, there is no finish line. Because perfection was never really the goal. Feeling worthy was. None of these patterns mean your brain failed. They mean it succeeded. It found solutions, temporary ones, brilliant ones. The problem isn't that these strategies existed. The problem is that the brain doesn't automatically receive the message that life has changed. It keeps using yesterday's map, even when you're walking through a completely different landscape today. That's why peace can sometimes feel uncomfortable. That's why compliments can feel harder to believe than criticism. That's why resting can feel almost dangerous. Not because you want to struggle, because your nervous system learned that staying alert was safer than letting go. When you understand this, something quietly shifts. You stop asking, "What is wrong with me?" and start asking, "What happened that taught my brain this?" That single question replaces shame with curiosity, and curiosity is where something new begins. Because here is the beautiful truth about the brain. It learned these strategies, which means it can learn something else. Not overnight, not through positive thinking, but through repeated, gentle experiences of safety. Every time you ask for help and receive kindness, your brain updates its picture of the world. Every time you say no without losing someone's love, it updates again. Every time you rest without having to earn it first, something shifts. And slowly, without fanfare, without a single dramatic moment of transformation, the nervous system begins to trust that the world it lives in now is not the one it grew up in. Healing isn't becoming a different person. It's teaching your nervous system that it no longer has to fight battles that ended long ago. So notice, just once today, when an old strategy quietly surfaces. Maybe you start apologizing automatically. Maybe you push away someone's help. Maybe you start chasing perfection again. Don't try to stop it, just notice it. And instead of thinking, "This is who I am," try asking, "What was this trying to protect me from?" That question creates something remarkable, a small space between you and the strategy. And in that space, new choices become possible. Because awareness isn't the finish line, it's the doorway. The child you once were deserved safety. The adult you are deserves it too. Not because you finally earned it, but because you always did. Some of what you've carried through life is extraordinary. Your resilience, your empathy, your awareness, your determination. You don't have to throw any of that away. You only have to let go of the fear that created it. Because your greatest strength was never just surviving. It was that despite everything, your heart never stopped hoping that life could feel different. And perhaps today, it just takes its first step. Milk and honey for your soul.